Welcome to the Manor Club Extra, where we're going to be bringing you 6 digital shows across the next 6 months. This is going to bring us across all of Oxfordshire, bringing everyone together while we can't actually get into the room at the Cowley Workers Sports and Social Club. And we'll have interviews with past players, as well as bring in physical activities. And everyone here at Oxford United in the community would like to thank the hard work from Age UK Oxfordshire and Active Oxfordshire to make this possible.
Well, welcome back to Oxford United. It's been a while.
Thanks, Rosie.
Good. Listen, obviously we had a great career that you've had with Oxford United back in the day, but I want to take you further back. I know your memory's not brilliant now because you're getting on a bit.
I'm at that age.
Aren't we all? I want to take you right back to when you started playing, obviously kicking the ball about in the street up in Mansfield and stuff. And did you always want to be a footballer?
Always, from as far back as I can remember. I just remember, even as a little kid, you know, there were no cars on streets then, funnily enough. I think only one person owned one on our street, so it was brilliant. You know, the whole street would be out, and we'd have a 6-a-side, 8-a-side on, actually playing in middle of the street, which is you won't get that anymore.
No, it's jumpers for goalposters.
Scary. But it was. I know it's a cliche, but it actually was. Yeah. That is what we did.
It was. You got picked up quite early. You went to was it Chesterfield?
Yeah, I went to Chesterfield. To be honest, early in them days, yeah. But it was about under 15s then. I mean, I know nowadays, you know, kids are going into clubs at under 8s because my lad did it. Do you know what I mean? But in my era, you know, to get picked up sort of 15, 16, and then go straight into apprenticeships, that was more the route when I was younger.
Yeah, so apprenticeship, talk me through a general day back in the day.
Yeah, I've got to be honest with you. It was the first year that the YTS scheme came out, and it was only for 1 year. And I got signed on at Chesterfield along with 8 others. There was 9 others altogether. And they sort of picked us out early doors, and there was actually only 3 of us left at the end of the year. I mean, it was a great year. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it was £27.50 a week, so I was loaded as well.
What is that?
Yeah, saying that bus money were quite a bit expensive in them days as well. But yeah, so there were 9 of us started. There was only 3 of us left at end of the year, and typical, you know, came in, said they'd got no money, would assign non-contract forms. And I was like, that was John Duncan, you must remember him, old Ipswich town manager, Scots bloke. And I just I didn't fancy it. I thought, well, you've seen me for a year, you know what I can do. Do you know what I mean? And it's an easy excuse to say we've got no money. And 2 of us said the same thing, that we wouldn't sign, we'd look elsewhere. And the other lad ended up getting a contract, funnily enough. Mickey Hoskins, he did play a couple of games, but only a couple. Yeah, so I just left end of that year. I don't know if it was a good decision. It didn't seem so. I wrote to a load of football clubs, didn't get many replies. Luckily, I got the opportunity to go and have a trial game at Mansfield Town. Billy Dearden, he was the one that actually took me on as a YTS player, but then he left for Mansfield at that point. So he knew me anyway, so I've gone there, played well in the trial game. Ian Greaves was manager at that point, by the way, obviously. Yeah, a great bloke, loved him. Yeah, so they invited me into the pre-season training with them. I did all right. I was getting £7 a week expenses for the bus again. Yeah, and I was still. We had a great FA Youth Cup run. We got through to semi-finals, I think it was, and we lost away at Watford.
So you were 18?
Yeah, I'd been 17 and a half, going on 18. Yeah, and luckily because of that run, Ian Greaves actually came and watched the youth team sort of progress through that. Yeah, we played Sheffield United, Villa, teams like that. So it was a good run for a club of our, you know, for Mansfield Town to get to semi-finals was unbelievable.
Right back?
I was centre mid then, mate. Yeah, started my career as a centre midfielder. Just workhorse up and down all day, you know what I mean? Got the tackles in, didn't score many goals, but the hard work, it's no different now.
Sounds like your career in a nutshell, Robert.
Says it all, mate, doesn't it? And not just my football career. But yeah, so Ian Greaves came and watched us a few times, and I was still there 6 months later on £7 a week expenses, and he put me in first team. So I was on. He pulled me in. I was on bench, and I was on the bench, and then I got a game the week after. We played Hereford at home, and we drew 1-1, and I remember it because Steve Whitworth, the right back at Mansfield at that point, I don't think he'd ever scored a league goal, and he took a penalty to make it 1-1, and so that was me. That was my introduction to first team football. Still not getting paid, so got in the week after, and we were doing some pattern of play on the Thursday, and I said, "Sorry, Gaffer, I've got to go and sign on and get me dole money." And that's when he offered me a contract.
Quality. So you had 2 seasons, had 2 good seasons, an introduction into football and football league and everything else. You have some good players around you as well.
Yeah.
But success was good there. And then 86, 88, you had 2 years at Stockport County, so you had to move.
Yeah, what happened was I signed a 2-year contract at Mansfield under Ian Greaves, but unfortunately, being a young lad, we was a decent team. We got promoted that year as well. I think I played 8 games as a kid. We got promoted, and the following year we made a few signings. It didn't look like I was going to play. Colin Murphy, who was a character, by the way, he came in, and funnily enough, John Duncan tried to sign me on loan for Chesterfield, which was quite big of him in a way, because he's telling me I'm not good enough at 17, but at 19 he wanted to sign me. So that was quite impressive from his point of view in my eyes. Do you know what I mean? And I'd never held it against him either. So but anyway, yeah. So Colin Murphy came in, asked me to go to Stockport. They were bottom at league in Division 4 when you went out of the league, and I think we were 12, 14 points adrift as well. So he signed 2 or 3 players. He'd just gone there, signed 2 or 3 players. I was one of them, and I played every game while I was there. We stayed up. Last game of the season, we stayed up. I don't know if you recall it. Torquay went down because I think Torquay went down because a dog had come on the pitch, and one of the police dogs, and bit one of the players. So they ended up playing 6 minutes overtime or something like that. And I think they went down instead of us. So I helped keep them up. He signed me for 3 months. He extended it, and then at the end of that season, it was one of them where he wanted to sign me full time. I went back and spoke to Ian Greaves. Ian Greaves said that he couldn't guarantee me first team football, so all I wanted to do was play football. So I left straight away.
See, that's what it's about. You wouldn't have that in nowadays, because people would just be picking up their money and sitting on the bench. In most clubs, big money, but you're the sort of character you don't mind playing in a lower team as long as you get your football.
It's never been about money, and it's not, it's about playing the game, isn't it? And I think the only time I started to think more about money is when the kids came along. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because I'd have played for nothing at the end of the day. I say that, but I turned Chesterfield down to play for nothing, didn't I? But but do you know what I mean? It was never about what you earn, and it was all about being a professional footballer. All I ever wanted to do was play one game, so that if anybody ever asked me, I could say, yeah, I played professional football.
But obviously, Stockport County in '88, again, you've had two good years there. And then Billy Bremner, the great Billy Bremner, manager of Doncaster Rovers, came in for you.
I never missed a game in the 2 seasons I was at Stockport, which, was brilliant. I loved every minute of it. And it came to sort of deadline day, just before deadline day, and there'd been a few clubs interested. And I went down, funnily enough, I went down to speak to Dave Mackay, because he was manager at the time. And Dave Mackay sort of said, look, want to sign you. We agreed on the spot. Again, money was no object. I signed. I think it was just because I wanted a change, and just what Dave Mackay was all about as well. You know, I mean, he's another one that, you know, wholehearted, 100%. And I just thought that he'd do something at Doncaster. Do you know what I mean?
Can I just say, just listening to the start of your career, you've mentioned so many great names as managers and coaches. And for me, that's a great platform for a career.
And that's what it's about, Rosie, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I think you need them sort of characters around because, you know, you've only got to listen to them talk and the stories. And, you know, I used to watch them as players on, you know, on Match of the Day and things. And
they were in my sticker book.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I
think you were. Oh, no, you weren't.
There's a good chance of it. So I signed again, you know, I signed, I played it virtually every game, hardly any injuries. So I played there. I had about 18 months at Doncaster. Funnily enough, I'm mentioning a couple of names. So it started off with Dave Mackay, then Joe Kinnear took over, and then Billy Bremner came in. Billy Bremner came in, obviously, I supported Leeds as a kid, so it was like one of those. It really was. And I loved him. And he converted me to a right back. He said, he says, you know, do a great job in midfield. I think he's a right back. You know, you could go on to bigger and better things. So I did as I was told, like I still do now. Do you know what I mean? I've got gaffers now, and you do what they say. You know what I mean? That's part of the job, isn't it? And that's why they gaffers and we're players. He put me to right back. No complaints from me. Played about 18 games, I think, and Leeds came in for me, and Howard Wilkinson it was, and but I think they only offered 100 grand, and Billy wanted more, so it didn't happen.
That must have been disappointing for you, being a Leeds United.
Very much so. I think they signed Mel Sterling, and they signed two actually. Chris, who's the Chris, the loud, big voice, all that. He's massive on TV and that. Chris Kamara. Yeah, so they signed Mel Sterling and Chris Kamara instead of me. So I was absolutely gutted at the time.
Big mistake.
Aye.
None of them have done anything in their career.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? I'm glad I'm not on TV, though, I've got to be honest with you.
The move to Oxford United in 90, you came to us in 1990. How did that come about?
Well, as I say, there was a lot of clubs looking at that time, and Mark Lawrenson I'd seen us a few times because he was manager at Peterborough after Oxford, and I think he fancied me, and they hadn't got the money, and he knew they hadn't, and obviously he's big mates with Brian Orton. Brian Orton came down, obviously had a look, like what he saw, and then Morris came and watched me at Southend away.
Morris Evans, what a man.
Yeah, and we lost 4 or 5-0, and Morris obviously saw that, and even though we lost 4 or 5-0, he obviously saw something in me because I signed just after, and he told me about the Southend game. Yeah. Did
you know of Oxford United, and did you know all about Oxford?
I knew all the teams that were in the leagues, but where it was and everything else.
Not in the country.
I hadn't got a clue. I'd never been this side of Mansfield. Do you know what I mean? Wow. And it was funny because when I came down, I sort of asked down there, "How am I going to get down there? Where is it?"
How far is Mansfield away, by the way?
Funnily enough, it's only about 1 hour and 40 minutes by car, but obviously there weren't many cars around there.
This is in 1990, by the way.
Yeah.
not 1890.
I know, yeah. It feels like it, though. So I ended up sort of meet Mrs. and little young, and he was only 6 months at the time, Liam. So we jumped on a train. It ended up being 3 trains, and then Mick came and picked us up from the train station, Mick Brown, and took us to a hotel, dropped Mrs. and Liam off, and I came and spoke to Brian.
No agents in those days?
Not for me. I think they just started coming into games, you know what I mean? And nah, I'm not interested. Just want to play football.
Exactly. So what sold you? Why did you sign?
Just because we were in first division at that point, you know, and it was a good move for me as in my career. You know, I went from playing against Torquay and, you know, teams like that to suddenly coming and playing Leicester's and West Brom's and Queen's Park Rangers, and do you know what I mean? It was just a massive. It was just massive move.
What was Nobby like, Brian Horton?
Not initially. I'll be totally honest with you. Initially, I didn't particularly like him in the respect that, you know, he was very vocal. He'd be in your face sort of attitude, and I think because I came up from sort of third, fourth division, and Oxford had just gone down from what would have been the Premiership then. I think I felt that he picked on me a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Because it was hard to pick on your Premiership players like Steve Foster and people like that. It was easy to do it against me, and that's how I felt a bit. But I look back, sort of 2 or 3 years later, and thought, wow, what a great job he did, because he was just getting me ready. Do you know what I mean? And it took 3 or 4 months for me to sort of finally have a go. Bristol City away, I think we lost 2-0. And so starting naked, getting ready, you know, match is finished, he's giving us a dressing down, and he sort of had a go at me. And I just stood up to him, and I was stark naked, and I just offered him out, more or less, do you know what I mean? And from that moment on, he sort of left me alone after that. But it was because he knew then that he'd done his job. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? He knows that I know now and what it takes, etc. And he was, from that day on, he was brilliant. And as I say, it was a grounding for me, and he was sort of helping me learn the ropes. Do you know what I mean? And I'll never forget it, and I'm so grateful for him.
Brilliant. Well, I met Brian at the Man City game last season. He was guest of honour, and he mentioned you being stark naked.
Yeah,
there was another story on that one. It was a cold night, apparently.
Definitely not. No, I'll have to agree with it.
Other managers we'll go through. I mean, 1992, a tough season. We struggled. You struggled that season, and it was the last game, the Tranmere game, that everyone talks about.
Yeah.
You need to go to Tranmere. You need to win to stay up. You played nearly all the games again that season because I would say you're injury-free season, but
I was so fortunate in the fact that I didn't have many injuries. But even then, you played through niggles and knocks and whatever you could play through, you did. And if it meant, you know, I had a broken toe and I was having jabs put in my toe just so that I could play, you know, things like that. I had a ankle operation. That was my only injury that I did have, and I was out 7 or 8 months with it. And that's why I missed the Tranmere game. And you know, I was taking tablets, Voltarol, and like I was taking that many of them that after a game, I would be on the toilet all the way back from the away game. Do you know what I mean? Because it sort of tore your insides out having the medication, and sort of I'd be doing that every single day just to get through training. And do you know what I mean? And that's what you did in them days. And I'm not saying it was the right thing to do, and I don't regret it, to be honest with you. But end of season would come, and I'd stop taking those tablets, and then I couldn't walk. So that's how much they masked what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? Go on, mate. Sorry.
I just had, but that day at 2-1, obviously you didn't play because you were injured, but you were up there.
Yeah.
Because you're part of the squad and,
of course,
and experience and everything else. What a day! And I know the Travel supporters that are listening, just remember that day.
Everybody remembers that day, and you know, as much as I didn't play, it was still a massive part of my career, because the following season I stayed in the same division rather than, you know, in a relegated team. So yeah, just great. It was just a great times, wasn't it?
Paul Key, good day that day for Keezy.
Paul Key, I mean, I still speak to Keezy now on social media and what have you. He's not changed at all. He hasn't, no, not at all. He's still funny now, and you know, some of the nights out and some of the some of the stories. He was just a great character. I remember him going out. We had a couple one afternoon after training, and there were no game, so it was good time. And he was supposed to take some potatoes home for his missus for tea that night, and he sent Mark Druce. He says, "Druce, drop them off at my house on your way back." So Druce did. Keesey didn't go home for 2 days. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that was the sort of guy he was. But a great character, great fun, good trainer, good keeper.
Talk about drinking and the culture sort of thing. Nowadays you couldn't get away with it. No. We've spoken to players of your era, my era, because you're monitored and you got GPS and everything else, and you have to wee into a bottle before training and stuff. Back in your day and my day, that we had a head on it, but you drunk together and you played together and you worked hard. But I wouldn't say you got away with it, but it was different. But it worked, didn't it? Off the pitch, it worked. It
was different, wasn't it? And it was always, I'd like to say, 90% of the time it was done at the right time. I wouldn't go drinking on a Wednesday night if I'd got a game on a Saturday. Do you know what I mean? I'd have a couple on a Saturday if we hadn't got a game until the following Saturday. If we'd got a decent break, I used to have a good night out once every 5 or 6 weeks. Do you know what I mean? But what I think more what you're referring to is sort of we'd have away games, and we'd be encouraged. We would stop. And again, another cliche, we would stop the bus. We would have fish and chips on the bus, and we'd go for a couple of pints in a pub. And it was brilliant because we'd talk about the game and things that went wrong in that game. We'd be discussing them literally an hour later in a pub, and that's all we talked about the game. It wasn't like we've gone to a pub and you disco in and what have you. Although I was a good dancer. I think it was part of our culture, but I think it was a necessary part. It kept us together, and we did talk about the games, and we did have a got pop at each other. Do you know what I mean? And we did do, I think nowadays you wouldn't, as you say, you wouldn't get away with it, not just because of the clubs, but social media and everything else. Funnily enough, Chelsea, we played them in FA Cup replay after we drew 1-1 at home on Sky. Kev Francis gave a penalty away last 93rd, 94th minute, I think. Went over to Chelsea, and that was the first time that I'd been in a football club that didn't have a bar.
Well, we're talking about managers and stuff that we have. Dennis Smith and Malcolm Crosby.
Yeah, obviously in my 10 years, I went through a lot of managers. But yeah, Dennis came in and obviously brought Crosby with him. Great partnership. Lovely people. But winners. And that's the biggest thing I can say about the pair of them. It was great to see them. They came obviously to the testimonial and a couple of years ago, and it was just lovely to see them both again. Proper football people.
They complemented each other as well, because they never saw eye to eye all the time, did they?
Very seldom, to be fair. But I think that's what sometimes makes good relationships, isn't it? Me and our lass don't get on, but we're still together.
But I remember somebody said that Dennis came in at half time and said they're going to change it, and then Crosby came in and said, "Hang on," and he overruled Dennis. Yeah. And that got more respect from you guys, and they just cracked on with it.
Yeah, again, a proper partnership. They listened to each other and they respected each other. Both had opinions, not always the same. And, it wasn't a case of I'm manager, you're assistant. It's we're a team, and that's how they worked.
Yeah, so we had some good highs with them. Obviously, 96, the promotion in 96, but I want to take it back a year to 95. It's a little town just up the road called Marlow.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Well, I'm sure he did one Sunday. We've heard about Marlow, obviously the FA Cup run and everything else. From my side of it, and I've talked about it a lot because people ask me about it from me, but from your side of it, from an Oxford United side of it, and you're playing against a team that are in the Ryman Prem, that have got a little, very small ground down there. It's a Sunday, and you guys were nearly top of the league and flying. Yeah. how on earth did you lose to Marlow? What happened on that day?
It's the beauty of the FA Cup, mate, isn't it? You know, I mean, we ourselves have had some really good cup wins, and it was on the day Marlow were better than us by far. And I don't think it was a case of us underestimating it. I think Marlow were just great on the day. It's a day that didn't work out for us. And again, I think having a lot of ex-Oxford people involved with Marlow at that time, I think they were so up for it that it was, you know, and fair play. You know, it's one of those where I don't look back and, you know, unless I see you, I don't even think about it.
It's a pleasure, Robert. But you're probably right. Pete Foley as manager. Yeah. You know, you've got Paul Racing, you've got Les Phillips, little Les, in midfield, and myself playing left back. And you playing right back and me playing left back. Yeah. I do remember going past you once in the first half.
That was when we was walking off for half time.
Yeah, I knew. But it was 0-0 at half time. And it was, and sorry, I was a Marlow boy that day. Of course you were. But the atmosphere changed at half time for the fans towards me. But did you feel the animosity out there?
If I'm being honest with you, it was one of them where, you know, we're not winning, so it was a case more of, you know, we need to get in there, pull our socks up, have a bit of a chat to one another, and hopefully improve by in the second half. Because, you know, if we didn't, we was going to get beat. And, you know, I just think, I genuinely think, although I'm not saying that we weren't up for it, because you're always up for it. Well, I know I am. And I just think the whole occasion and so much Oxford involvement within Marlow, and I just think it was one of that. It was a roller coaster, and you thoroughly deserved the win. Really disappointing result for us. And that's it really, mate. And you know, at the end of the game, there was no, you know, I went up and shook everybody's hand just like I would any other game. It's one of those, we got beat fair and square, you know, and we move on to the next game.
Yeah, I do remember, it was a Sunday. Yeah. I remember coming into work on the Monday, making a cup of tea with Malcolm Elias and Jonah and Les. Yeah. And I got invited into the change rooms with you guys, and you beat hell out of me. But it was respect. It was, and we moved on. So we had a good cup run. Marlow had a good cup run, which gave you a couple of Saturdays off then.
Well, it's funny you say that. It worked out in our favour in a way, because as you say, we were in a good season. We ended up the next round. We ended up in Cyprus. And it was the same year that Man United, there was 3 or 4 people from Man United out there, Ferguson, Brian Kidd, Solskjaer was out there, Phil Neville. It was the, I don't know what year, it was like the 10th year of the Cypriot Man United Football Club. So they were all out there. So
you benefited from losing to Marlow?
Yeah, we stopped in a 5-star hotel, all inclusive. We had a couple of nights out. Yeah, we had a good time, to be honest with you, which I'd have preferred to have been in the next round at FA Cup instead. I've got to be honest with you, but, you know, as losses go, we actually benefited slightly from it.
Moving on from Marlow, 96, what a season that was.
Unbelievable.
Just talk us through the season, Robert.
Well, as you say, the year before, we'd started really well the year before, and I think we were like unbeaten up until Christmas. You might have been first team to beat us. And then Wycombe beat us on Boxing Day, and we just had a terrible run after that, and we missed out. The 96 season, we didn't have as good a start, but at Christmas we turned it around, and then we went on a massive unbeaten run that took us all the way to promotion. I think a couple of key games, you know, last couple of games of the season, we had to beat, we was away at Crewe in penultimate game, and I think we ended up beating them. It was either 3-1 or 2-1. I just remember result came back. I think it was Bradford and Blackpool or something like that. but Bradford had lost, and it meant that we'd gone up into automatic position for the first time all year. And it was just an unbelievable occasion. We've all gone back out onto the pitch. You know, you've got all the Oxford fans in the away end, and we just had a party that night, to be honest with you. I mean, there was no drink or anything, but, you know, as a group of people, you know, the togetherness with the fans and the players, it was just outstanding. My young one was up there, and it was just unbelievable to see him. It was a fantastic evening, that was. And then to get on the bus and be on his way back, knowing that it's in our hands, was just out of this world. Obviously, Peterborough at home, last game of the season, 0-0 at half-time. We've heard that other scores are going against us. We know we've got to win, but to be honest, we'd had 3, 4, 5 great chances. We should have been 3 or 4 up. And I think we ended up winning 4-0. Second half, we've gone out and just sort of turned it on, and yeah, once we got one, that was it.
Down the slope.
Unbelievable, yeah.
You look at the squad, you had a really good squad of players. It wasn't just 11. The back four was a consistent back four. So you got you at right back, you've got Mike Ford at left back, Matty Elliott and Phil Gilchrist. Yeah. And that back four was very consistent all year.
Unbelievable. Obviously, you've got Phil Whitehead in goal as well. And, you know, we had a great season, but I think the most fortunate bit about it was we didn't have any injuries. You know, if you have a look through the appearances that year, I think we must have had 7, maybe 8 that have played 40 games apiece. Do you know what I mean? And that was the big thing for me, you know, the consistency. But that was all about having players fit, and I say fit, wanting to play. Because again, you know, there's players there playing even when they are injured, but, you know, and I think that was the big thing that year. I
think because you had Joey, you had Joey, Chris Allen.
It was, I think mostly you'd got Joey, you'd got Mark Angel, you'd got Stuart Massey, you'd got Chrissy. Had we got Chris? I can't remember now. That one's gone. Yeah, but you know, the wingers. It was funny because I think Joey and Mark Angel sort of split the season between them. They'd played as many games as each other. I think Stewie was sort of more 35, 40 game man. And obviously we've got Moods and Rushy and, you know, other people that we could bring in as well, you know.
Good partnership, Moods and Rushy. What was Rushy like? We all know crazy Rushy, but on the pitch? Again, on the pitch,
100%. He was my type of player, you know what I mean? Never, the defence had never, you could never rest with him up front, you know? He was always putting a foot in or, you know, nicking a ball off your end of your foot. Do you know what I mean? And that was his game. He scored goals, but his weight rate was outstanding.
We talk about the back four, and you mentioned Phil Whitehead, Bubbles, call him Bubs. Yeah. Likes a bit of champagne, apparently.
I don't know about now, but I know he did then.
What was he like as a keeper?
Fantastic. Typical keeper. They're all a bit mad in different ways, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? Bubs was very loud. He liked to drink, along with a few of the others. But he was very vocal. He was a great shot stopper, and just you knew you were safe with him behind you.
It helps when you've got a keeper like that you don't have to keep dropping off and look after him. You can play your back four, you can play high up the pitch, and you had pace. You had Matty was quick, and Gilly was certainly quick in those days, and you're still quick now. And then you had Fordy.
It's funny because I still I have more to do with Fordy now than I've ever done. One of our kids is in his class at Banbury College, so I speak to Fordy quite often now.
All good. Moods. I mean, we're nowhere near finished this chat now, but we can't go any further without talking about Moods. What a character.
Yeah, and even now, obviously, sort of when we had the reunion, you know, I'm bumping into him again, and it's still the same old Moods now. Do you know what I mean? Really nice kid, very individual in the way he played. You know, there's not many people that would be taking 4 or 5 defenders on and smacking it in from 30 yards. Do you know what I mean? But that's what he'd got. He still loved his penalties.
Yes.
Brilliant.
They never come back, do they? No, they just go.
No matter where they go, they ain't coming back.
We retrieved one from the cinema the other week, actually.
There you go. Don't surprise.
459 appearances for Oxford United, apparently.
I'm going for 458, but you know, I'm happy to add one more if you want.
You are at the top. You're in the top six. So the sixth most appeared player for Oxford United.
It's a shame, really. Obviously, you know, I did my 10 years. Sounds like a prison sentence, doesn't it? And the only reason it was all about Kassam coming in. That was the reason that I left. Do you know what I mean? I should have finished my career at Oxford. There's no doubt about it. And even if that was, you know, sort of helping out with reserves or whatever, there's no way that I should have left. But again, Kassam came in. I will tell the story. So Kassam's come in. Burnley came in for me. It's the time Burnley had got money. They signed Gaza. They signed Ian Wright. They signed, you know, giving a lot of money away. And they came in for me. I had a phone call from one of the players at that time saying, "Look, Robbo, they want you to come. Definitely want you." Mickey Lewis was manager at the time. Pulled me and said, "Look, lads, you know, I'd like you to stay." I said, "Look, I don't want to go anywhere." I've gone in with Kassam. We shook hands on a new 2-year contract. Same money. Didn't even ask for any more money, even though, you know, I weren't one of the highest paid players by no means. Do you know what I mean? But it was about, you know, loving what I do. And so Kassam, we shook hands on a 2-year deal. My little one had got a bad tummy, and he was in and out of hospital. So I didn't go in and sign it straight away. And I went in after about 3 weeks, and we'd lost about 3 out of 4 games. And Mick Brown says, "You need to see Kassam again." And I said, "Oh, okay." And so I saw him again, and he said, "If we get relegated, I can't afford to keep you on that contract." I said, "Oh, don't worry about it then." I said, "As soon as we stay up, I'll just sign then." So we shook hands again, and off I went. We stayed up, and he offered me a year on 500 quid a week, less money. So I don't know if that was more because he could then incorporate a testimonial, and he thought I'd just sign anyway. Do you know what I mean? And I like to stick to my principles, and I want to hold my head up high. So I said, "No, I ain't signing then." And he mentioned testimonial. I said, "Don't care, whatever." And I ended up signing for my hometown club again, Mansfield Town. I signed 2 years there. I was probably still only earning the same money that I would have stayed 1 year at Oxford on. But it was a matter of principle for me. And it's a shame, really, because the papers were big into Kassam at that point because he'd promised the club the world. Do you know what I mean? And I think people had got, you know, taken in by it. And unfortunately, I think it didn't prove that way, did it? And as much as I would have loved it to, and Oxford, you know, he would have ploughed the money in and taken Oxford to bigger and better things. I just knew it weren't going to happen. And really disappointing, because if you shake hands on something, for me, that's done deal. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I'll always live. And I only regret it because I played 458 games. I should have played 600. I went to Mansfield. I played every game the first season, and I missed about 7 or 8 the second season. Do you know what I mean? I ended up playing 90 odd games in them 2 years. So it weren't like I weren't fit enough to do it. It was, you know, I was still doing a job. I mean, I went to Mansfield. I mean, it was brilliant because my dad was ill, and it meant that my dad could come and watch me for the last 2 years. He couldn't get down to Oxford anymore. He was down here every week for 5 or 6 years, and he couldn't get down anymore. So it meant that my dad could see me at the end of my career.
Always a silver lining, Robbo, with you.
That's important,
mate. As well. I know, but you're still
massively smiling. So, yeah.
I've got you down as over 7. I'm not going to give you a figure because you'll correct me. Over 700 league appearances.
742.
I had that down to 743, but there you go.
40 miles, sir.
Which is incredible service to Oxford United and to the football, and you know, whatever level you played at. When you retired, let's finish here.
Go on,
when you retired, still fully fit.
Yeah.
Why did you retire?
I've got to be honest with you, my career, I'd got another year left at Mansfield. I suppose that's not when I retired, but I'd got another year left at Mansfield, and we'd just got promotion. I captained him to promotion, which is another great thing to go back home for, do you know what I mean? The new manager came in and he was promoted from youth team, and I think straight away he said to me, look, Les, I'm going to be under pressure, you being here, hometown boy, just got us promotion, you know, the fans love you, blah, blah, blah. And it was a bit disappointing because I think anybody that knows me knows that I couldn't do anything like that, you know.
You wouldn't step on anyone's toes.
Definitely not. I'm not that type of person. And, you know, it was disappointing, but it meant that he wanted me out at club for that reason, and that's what was disappointing. But, you know, if you want me out, I'm on my way, and I left. I signed for Hensford Town. I played about 15 months there. I then signed for Banbury, again, just to keep playing, really, and to help Brocky out at Banbury. So I played there a couple of years, and I think I played my last game at 41 for... what's the services on the motorway? What's the services on the motorway? Next one up from Banbury. Ardley. Ardley. I played my last game at 41 for Ardley. Yeah, I hardly played that year.
Right back?
I think I was centre half.
Centre half.
Away as well. That was it. I'd had enough.
Done enough.
Yeah.
Good. You moved into schooling. Your job you do now?
Yeah, I'm actually assistant head of education at a special needs school called Swaycliffe Park. They're located just outside Banbury. It's kids with autism, basically. Everybody's diagnosed with autism. Yeah, it's one of those, you know, if I'd have stayed in game, it would have been with the kids, I think, you know what I mean? Whenever, with Liam growing up, it was always me that was the one that, with all the kids, taking them out footballing, all that sort of thing. And yeah, I went, when I signed for Hensford, I went to Liam's school just to use AstroTurf to put some sessions on for kids. You know, I weren't going to charge them or anything. It was just one of those giving back things, do you know what I mean? Because I know how fortunate I was to have had a career like I did. And even now, I'd do hope for anybody, do you know what I mean? So I went in, I said to Headmaster, any chance I can use facilities, the AstroTurf, so I can put some sessions on for the local kids and what have you. And he says, we're PE teacher short, Les, would you come in? And I looked and I said, I didn't even know he'd know my name, you know what I mean? And he just happened to be a season ticket holder at Oxford. Wow. So he didn't let me use the AstroTurf to put sessions on, but he did offer me a job. I said no, because I play golf every day. And after about 3 months, he asked me again. And I said, yeah, go on then. So I did it, and it was brilliant. It's what I do well, you know what I mean, mate? So I was there for about 15 months, and then I went up to put a couple of sessions on where I am now. Just, again, it's one of those where it's a residential school, so my daughter was working there, and she says, Dad, can you come and put a couple of sessions on for kids? I said, yeah, of course I will. I went up, put a couple of sessions on. It was a bit of an eye-opener. It was, the PE teacher there was off with stress, which I understand now. They said to me, look, any chance you come and do PE here? Because, you know, we do everything, you know, just like a mainstream school. All the lessons are taught just like a mainstream school. We do GCSEs, etc. And so I went there just as a stopgap, and the teacher never came back. And I don't blame him. I've got, so I've been there, God, what seems like 5 or 6 years now, but it's nearer 17, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because when I ran the community scheme here, you and I connected, and I came up and done a couple of sessions, and now, a couple of seasons ago, we've got together and we've got some of your lads down, didn't we, in a box?
I've got to be honest with you, Oxford United, and you yourself, Rosie, since I've been there, our kids love Oxford United, and they've given us so much as a school. You know, we've had lads down on work experience. We've had lads, we've brought lads to, you know, use the facilities. We've had tours of the stadium. We had them on the pitch at half time, having crossbar challenge. Now you're talking about kids that don't like change and don't like crowds and don't like, you know, and it's just an eye opener for them. And it's been a fantastic relationship.
And these are the kids that are from all over the country, by the way.
Yeah, all over the country. Yeah, all over the country. We're residential, so yeah. But they've got a big love for Oxford United now, just like me.
You had your 10 years, but you weren't really granted your testimonial, but you were in the end for your 10 years service in 2018.
Unbelievable, mate. And again, I left thinking that I'd never get a testimonial. But to be honest, I weren't bothered. No. You know, it was about principle, and you know, I left, and that's it, because I'm off you go type thing. You know, never regretted it. And then we had the reunion in '96, and one of the fans just mentioned it to me on that night. How come you never had a testimonial? And I told him the story, and he says, "Do you want one?" I said, and I looked, I said, "Yeah." But it wasn't a case of me wanting one to raise money and all this, although it came in handy because my son got married in Australia, so that enabled me to go to Australia. So thank you, everybody. Yeah, and it started there, mate. So I was, you know, they just put a proposal together, and it all went from there, and it just spiraled, and it ended up being an unbelievable year, you know, to get back involved with football club and everything else. You know, yes, the money was good at the end, but it was everything else. You know, the golf day, the dinner, you know, the match, the being in the stadium and being in the changing rooms again. And do you know what I mean? It was just outstanding year. And
I think it's a buzz for you. Same for me. Whether you're playing for a non-league club, your Ardleys, whatever, you still give it 100%. Whether you've got 10 people watching or 500 or 30,000, it's still that buzz. Do you still get that tingle?
Yeah, and it's that as well, Rosie, where, you know, just going out there and working hard and, you know, and doing it.
But you played against Liverpool. Why Liverpool?
Liverpool and Man United were the only two teams that I never got to play against. I played against every other team, home and away, funnily enough. Wow. But they were the two teams I didn't get to play against. To be honest, I didn't want to. Do you know what I mean? It was big time, aren't they?
Yeah. But you Phil Neal, Alan Kennedy, Mark Wright, the ex-Oxford United manager, turned up, and Walshy. I mean, you know, I know Walshy very well, and he loved that day.
Yeah, it was just as I say, it's something that'll live with me now. Just a great occasion. You know, the weather was brilliant. You know, seeing all the old boys, we had Malcolm and Dennis back, and you know, as you say, Liverpool had you know, stars of the past, and it was just fantastic. But great to see everybody that as well. You know, the fans. There was people there that, you know, I hadn't seen for a few years, and it's funny because whenever I get invited up, I always pop over and say hello to 3 or 4 people because I still remember them from Manor Ground. Do you know what I mean? I used to do the same every home game at Manor Ground. I always went over and say hello. There were a couple of ladies especially that I always went over and said hello to.
They're still there by the dugout.
I know they are.
They're still there by the dugout.
I see them when we come up. Bless them.
But people turn out for you because you're a good pro. You gave everything, you're wholehearted for the club, and the club meant everything to you, and you meant everything to the supporters as well. So that's credit to you.
Yeah, it is, yeah. But, you know, I'm humble.
You're quite humble. You are very humble. Just one line about your golf day.
I won.
You won. How can you win? I'm sorry, but how can you win your own golf day?
Whatever I do, Rosie, and you know this, I do it to the best of my ability. And although I've got a crap swing, nobody would ever want to play golf like I do. I play off 5, and I'm a born winner.
They're still trying to have a count back on your back 9. But anyway, Paul Wanless said that you wouldn't say that you cheated, but it was your handicap was dodgy.
I've got to be honest with you, I played off 5 that day, and Wandy, who's been down to 4, played off 14 that day, so it was a creditable second he came.
Okay, you're calling him out on that?
I'm saying nothing.
Well, we're just moving on. Obviously, the country's in turmoil since March. It's been in turmoil before that, actually. But with the COVID stuff, how has that affected you at work, with the kids at school, and home life?
Yeah, funnily enough, I was supposed to have done this about a month ago, I think, and yeah, my mum passed away. So obviously that was difficult. It wasn't COVID itself, but it was definitely COVID related, being stuck at home for 12 weeks on her own and that sort of thing, you know. School-wise, it's a funny one because, you know, I've been in school every day, more or less, all the way through, because all our boys have got EHCPs. So, you know, we have been in school and we're still teaching in school, but not all of the boys are in school. So we've also been doing a lot of online stuff. And it's changed the way we teach. Do you know what I mean? It's difficult. The difficulty I've found is when you've got some boys in the class and some boys where you're trying to sort of do the lesson at the same time as the boys in the class, the same boys that are at home. And that makes it difficult. But we've done you know, as a school, we've done a fantastic job. As I say, we've never been shut all the way through it. And even we've had a couple of half-term holidays. We didn't do anything during the 6-week break, but the other holidays that we've missed, May and what have you, we've still put things on every day for the kids, even though they're at home. Do you know what I mean? We put an activity on every morning. I was doing. I did a training session from my living room. Do you know what I mean? We did a circuit session and all that, and you know, the kids loved it. And you know, we've tried to keep them busy even through the half-term holidays and that. And I mean, going forward, I don't know what's going to happen, but you know, as a school, we're prepared to have our boys in, but we're also prepared in case rules do change again and the boys aren't allowed in. But I think because of the fact that they've all got EHCPs, I think we'll stay open no matter what happens.
EHCP?
Educational Health and Care Plan.
Brilliant, thank you. Personally, obviously, Michelle, your wife, I think, cancer 4 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, she came through that. This isn't helping. She's had a range of hobbies. The latest is knitting. I've got 42 scarves and 3 hats. But it's just, I think it's all about keeping busy and having things to do. You know, I mean, we've got the dog, so, you know, we do go walking when we're allowed. We've got Sainsbury's 30 seconds over at road, so, you know, the shopping hasn't become a problem. You know, I've done most of it purely because obviously Michelle's still high risk from all the cancer treatment. But yeah, we're getting through it, and you know, we're still happy. We're still here. That's you know, the way things are. That's a blessing, and we'll continue to be positive like we always have done. Do you know what I mean?
Liam, your boy, you haven't talked about your daughter. I know your daughter's grown up and moved away and everything else. But Liam, your boy, I remember coaching Liam at 9 years old.
Yeah.
Decent footballer.
He a lot more talent than I ever had. It's a shame because he had natural talent at goal from an early age, but never really played. And then at 14, it was one of those, do I go down the goal through? It was off 8 at the time. Do I go down the goal
14.
through? Yeah. Which, you know, I mean, you got 14-year-olds on scratch now, though, Rosie. They're that good now, you know. It was one of those where, which way do I take it? And, you know, I remember him crying, to be honest with you. And I spoke to the pro, Gary Wills, who said he's got to give it his full attention now at 14 and pack the football up or other way around. And he got a letter drop dropped through, more or less the same day, from England, inviting him up for England training. So with the likes of Walcott and Sturridge, and he was in that era.
Was he at Coventry then?
He was at Coventry City. He was at Coventry from 8 to 18, and captain of the youth team. He was, playing above himself. He'd got a lot of talent, and I tell you what, I would say he probably needed another yard of pace. You know what I mean? That's being really critical, but that's what I do. But he would have definitely made it as a pro. I don't know at what level, because I don't know if that pace might have stopped him at the very top, but he'd have made a decent living out of football. But he, at 18, he went back. It was his second year as a scholar, and he went back after Christmas. Dislocated his kneecap. Typical young lad, so they didn't send him for X-rays and scans and what have you. 6 weeks later, still no good. They did send him for scans then, and he ended up with an operation. Ian Dowie got sacked. The day that Liam was having his operation, we was watching Sky Sports, because I took him, and Sky Sports News, and it just come up that Ian Dowie had just been sacked from Coventry, so that wasn't very good. And then Chris Coleman came in, never even saw Liam play, and just got rid straight away. So Liam said, I said to Liam, do you want to go and, do you want me to try and get you some trials and what have you? Luckily, Oxford let him train for a couple of weeks, and he had a game with Mickey. He says, no, I've had enough. And I think that's the thing when you've been playing for 10 years and you're only 18. He decided that, no, I've had enough. And he said he wants to play golf. So it was one of those at first. It was like, really? At 18? Do you know what I mean? And it's one of those where, you pay for your kids to go to university and things like that, and it costs a lot of money. So we said, yeah, go on then. We'll give you 5 years and see what happens. And 12 years on, we're still paying for it. But to be fair to him, within a year, he went from 8 down to +2. He then got in all the county stuff. And funnily enough, Tyrrell Hatton, who's just won the big one at BMW at Wentworth, he was Liam's partner. They were the pairs grouping for the county squad. Obviously, he had a lot to learn, and you don't know how much at that time. And there's been so much to learn. But he's now playing Challenge Tour. He's played on European Tour a couple of times. He's got, until COVID hit, he was supposed to be Challenge Tour again this year with, hopefully, extra European Tour events. He definitely got one penciled in. And unfortunately, due to COVID, there's not been anything to play this year, other than the smaller satellite tours, which, he's earned his money back this year because, he's playing at a level where he's probably too good for. But at the same time, so's a lot of other golfers, because, the outlook for golf at the minute is really tough for the majority of them.
But he's done you proud on the circuit.
Unbelievable. I mean, for all I've achieved, to sort of watch him play on European Tour and make the cut, out of this world.
Got a little lump in my throat.
Me and all, mate, funnily enough.
Nice, actually. So just back to you, Robbo, on behalf of Oxford United and people watching and listening and that know you, that have watched you play over 700 league appearances, but 458 appearances for Oxford United over 10 years. You've been a great servant to football, a great servant to Oxford United. We'd just like to thank you for coming along today. One last question for you. It's either a beer down the pub with me or a game of golf.
It's definitely golf with you, and then we'll go to the pub after. How's that?
You're on.
Thanks, Rosie. And thanks, Oxford. I've loved my 10 years.
Sitting nice and comfortable there on the back of that chair. So we're going to come forward on the chair first of all. So nice big hip walk. If you can, bringing your bottom as far forward on the chair as you can. Good. So nice width in your feet, sitting nice and tall, as if you've got a big zip up the front of your body. Good, nice long neck, super. And then just let your arms come dangle down by your side, and we take them into a little shoulder roll. So just rolling them nice and gentle to start with. That's super, lovely. And then last one, and let them come down nicely by your side. And then we're gonna lean off to our right. So lean, brilliant. And back up to center and over to the left. Good. And back up to center. And just one more to each side. Super. Excellent, brilliant. So bring your hands together at the front. So a little bit of press through your hands, and we're going to take the hands off to the right and then bring them across your body as if it's a big fish swishing his tail in the water. That's super. Lovely. And last one. Brilliant. And then just bring your hands down and just rest them wherever they feel comfortable. So sitting up nice and tall and get those shoulders back. I'm going to start with a little march through these feet. Super. Excellent. And then 3, 2, 1, and bring them to a little rest. Excellent. So this time we're going to dig the heels out to the front. So dig the heels out to the front. Lovely. Now we can bring some arms into this. So let your arms come down by your side, and then each time we take a leg out, we bring it up for a little bicep curl. That's super. Brilliant, good. And last one to each side. Fantastic. And let those arms come down. And just let your arms dangle. And we're going to do a nice deep breath in. So breathing in through your nose and bring your shoulders up towards your ears. So breathing in and breathe out as you let those shoulders come down. And just one more. Nice deep breath in and breathe out. Fantastic. And then once we've got the arms back down there, we go for another shoulder roll. Now try to bring this shoulder roll bigger as we warm up these shoulders. Fantastic. And just one more, last one. Lovely, good, excellent. Just rest your hands down wherever they feel comfortable. Good. So we're going to go into a little march with these legs now. We're going to start to take up the intensity a little bit. So bend your arms and bend your arms so your elbows are driving backwards. That's super. Lovely, good. Really driving those elbows back. Excellent. Good. And 3, 2, 1, and rest. Lovely. Bring those arms down. Good. So we're going to go a little bit to the heels. So what we're going to do is, as we lift the heel, we're going to go over to one side. Lift the other heel and go over to the side. Brilliant. And lift and down. Lift and down. Fantastic. Excellent. Last one to each side. Super. Excellent. Good. So sitting up nice and tall, getting those shoulders back. This time we're going to do a little step out. So we need to make sure that we're in unison doing this bit. Okay. So as we go, we're going to step and back in. And with the other leg. And step and back in. Super. And step and back. Excellent. Good. Sitting up nice and tall. Lovely. Good. Fantastic. Lovely. And last one to each side. Step and step. Fantastic. Excellent. So sitting up nice and tall, nice long neck. Good. This time we're going to stay with one leg. So we're going to step to the front, step back in, step out to the side and back, and stay with this leg. So step forward. That's it. Step out to the side and back in, and step forward and out to the side. Lovely. Just one more little round. Forward and out. Excellent. Good. So we're going to go with the other leg now. So step forward and out to the side. Brilliant. You've got it. Super.
Got it. Love that.
Good. Fantastic. And just one more. Forward and back. Excellent, good. So when you're sitting in the chair, you want to have some nice width in your feet, and if possible, you want your toes just sticking out. That gives you nice stability in the chair. So we're going to get those shoulders back. That's it. Fantastic. And we're going to go with this one now with a little heel dig. So like we did in the beginning, we're going to heel dig out. That's it. Now bring these arms in with a little bit more intensity through the arms and through those feet, digging out. Super. Good. Lovely. Good. And 3, 2, 1, and rest. Brilliant. Good. So you should be feeling a little bit out of breath now. We're just going to do one more, and then we're going to start and just wind it down a little bit. So start with a march through your feet. Lovely. Start to bring some arms in and really driving through those elbows, going backwards. Excellent. Lovely. And keep it going for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and rest. Brilliant. Good. Lovely. Bring your fingers together at the front. Take a nice deep breath, breathing in and breathing out as you come down. And really forcing those elbows back as you come down. Lovely. Nice deep breath in. Breathing. Super. And just one more. Fantastic. Lovely. Good. So bring your hands round to the front, and one sat on top of the other one, and just push them away and just let your chin come down to your chest. Fantastic. And then bring those arms down and bring them round in a big circle to the back, and you can place them in your back, or you can grab the little rungs of the chair, nice and proud through your chest, pushing out. Fantastic. And then bring the arms back round. Super. Sit nice and tall. Take one leg out to the front. Nice heel down, toes up. Hands on the fleshy part of your leg. Sit tall and just lean forward, but look forward. So look towards the tables. Super. So you should feel like you're getting a nice stretch through that hamstring muscle. Fantastic. And sit yourself up nice and gently. Bring that leg in. Take out the other one. Hands on the fleshy part of your leg. Sit tall and then just lean forward. Excellent. Lovely. And bring yourself back up. Sitting tall in the chair, and we're just going for a little rock, side to side. Sitting tall. Lovely. Good. And 3, 2, 1, and rest. Brilliant. Good. And then we're done, so you can give yourself a big clap.
That was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you.